Game Up, they make a thirst-quenching adult beverage with a special blend of electrolytes. Could have used some of that last night. It comes in 4 great flavors: fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape.
And it's only 110 calories, guys. It's low carb. Get yourself some Game Up. This show is all about our 2025 predictions in, I say the MMA world, but pretty much for me, it's definitely going to be UFC, and do have a boxing category. We'll do 2 for fights. But
all right, let's start off with what fight we want to see in this upcoming year that we have to see.
This was an easy one. Tom Aspinall, John Jones. This is the fight that needs to be made. It's the biggest fight you could do, barring than some Conor McGregor spectacle, which personally but this is what I want to see. And so I don't honestly care about Conor McGregor as much anymore anyway. So even just as far as biggest fights we can do out there right now, this is it.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I need to see it. I want to know who the best heavyweight in the world is. Outside of Francis, obviously, is a possibility there as well. But we got to see it. Let's get it done. Who we think is going to be a breakout star? Let's start with male.
Okay, male. Did I put that? Oh, I put down Ian Gary. I was so impressed with his performance, even in a loss last time, that I just thought, man, this guy keeps working hard, which he clearly is. He seems to handle defeat well. He's the guy that's going to get better, and I think there's a good possibility this could still be his year.
Yeah, I cheated and put a couple guys down. So I've obviously Bo Nickel, still high on Bo Nickel. I'd like to see him fight those top level guys now. He's getting to that point. But also want to keep an eye out for Carlos Prates, just knocking dudes out over and over again. Yeah, just very exciting. I think when he knocked out Neil Magny, who's very tough to finish, the guy he's a world beater. So looking forward to his 2025. Let's move on to the women's side.
Okay, you always have to help me with the last name, but it's Menin Theo?
Yeah, Farrow. Yeah.
Farrow, yeah. Just looking at her record, looking at what she's doing, she has got a pretty good shot. I mean, she's probably going to fight for the title soon, fight Valentina for the title. And so I think that she could definitely be the big breakout star when you're looking at females.
I put Yasmin Lucindo. She had a good year. I think she went 3-0 or 4-0 in 2024, charging. She's still really young. She's like 19 or something like that. So to be in the top 10, I think she's like number 6 or something. Very good for her. And obviously Erin Blanchfield.
Oh, sure.
I'm still high on Erin Blanchfield. I think this could be the year she gets a title. She just needs the opportunity to fight for one. Who do we want to see make a comeback to the UFC?
I put a couple people down for this.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. So just for like a spectacle reason, I put Nick Diaz down once. Not that I'm super excited about Nick, but I heard a story about Nick. I think it was Jake Shields talking about and some issues they had with him, which I totally believe, with training and everything last time. And they just basically were saying they'd really love to get Nick back in optimum premium shape like he was before. And I thought to myself, Nick has never, and Nate too, they're not like two guys that really evolved as fighters much over the years. But I would like to see Nick at least come back for one fight, maybe like the fight he was going to do with Vicente. And I'd like to see an in shape Nick Diaz. I'd like the guy, not the guy that showed up because he looked more soft than we ever saw him when he fought. Was Robbie Lawler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just like to see another version of that. So that's one, and this is just kind of maybe a silly one. But to come back to the UFC, I'd actually like to see Corey Anderson get a shot in the UFC. I think he just recently became the Bellator light heavyweight champion. He wanted to vacate the title not too long ago in the past year. I was looking at, and I thought, you know what? It'd be good to see him get an opportunity back in the UFC. I know there was a guy he lost to there, Nemkov, a couple times, but whatever. He was always a interesting guy, and he was a little outspoken sometimes. I think
that was part of his issue and why he
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to see how he does with some of this competition now, the light heavyweight division of the UFC.
Yeah, I want to see Francis come back because I think if Tom, let's say John Jones beats Tom.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge fight that, we missed out on earlier a couple of years ago, and I'd like to see that one. I still think Francis has it, but I want to see Amanda Nunes come back because the women's divisions need her. I honestly, at this point, since she's been gone, there's no real giant star, and we know she still has the goods. So maybe her and Kayla Harrison at some point, if Kayla gets the title, that could happen this year.
Yeah.
Biggest bet to be champion.
I went with Manon Farrow again. I think she could do it. Kind of, I'm thinking like you talking about Blanchfield. I think Manon can get it done. I think Blanchfield might end up being two great rivals in that division at some point. That's who my pick is, although obviously Umar is another one because Murad's been so dominant, but I feel like Umar is one of the best stylistic matchups for Merab, and we'll know that very, very soon. But
Yeah.
assuming Merab keeps it, then I'm picking my man in right now.
I picked Erin Blanchfield. She's going to get an opportunity at least this year for sure. And I also picked JDM, Jack Della Maddalena. I think in a very stacked division with a lot of good up-and-comers with Shavkat and Ian Gary and all that, I think JDM kind of can stand apart. I think he's very well-rounded, plus he has a lot of power. So I think I hope he gets a title shot this year. It might be a next year thing, but keep an eye out for him. Boxing fight that we would like to see this year.
I went with Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. When I was just looking at like potential big fights out there, that seems like the biggest one. And I know Crawford, he just wants all the big fights. You know, he would love to try to make it. And so if they can make a fight with him and Canelo Alvarez, I'm not sure what weight class they would meet at, but it's definitely the fight I'd like to see.
That's a good shout, yeah. Even though both guys have lost a few times recently, I want to see AJ versus Tyson Fury. Also, honorable mention, I want to see this Jake and Connor fight. I know they're talking about Connor and Logan fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, Logan's big, but he has no boxing skills. Jake actually has boxing skills. Put the final nail in the coffin for Connor, I guess. Or Jake gets knocked out.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty low level. I'm not super hyped on that, but
yeah.
Our last one here. Who should the UFC sign from another organization? I have a few.
Okay, I just went with one. I went Johnny Eblen.
That's a great shot. I didn't think about Johnny Eblen. Yeah, he's tremendous. He could be very dangerous, top of the division immediately.
He could be a champ over there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I picked another one who I think could be champ immediately, possibly. Patchy Mix, featherweight, very tough matchup for Poirier or Max or Volk. He's right up there.
Patchy, the one who got clipped by Merab when they were on the regional circuit.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just very weird. Like it's not not saying that Merab would lose or win, but the way that fight ended was very un-Merab like. It was a spinning back fist, like in the first few seconds of the fight, just caught him. And now these two are respectively been on top of their divisions in separate companies, obviously. So yeah, I'd love to see that fight again.
I also picked Dakota Jacheva, who I talked about last week, the PFL. She's fighting at lightweight and PFL. Super dangerous, lots of finishes. And then talking about that Bellator fight at the end of the month, Usman Nurmagomedov, undefeated, and he's fighting Paul Hughes, who was close to signing with the UFC, but ended up signing to the Bellator PFL thing. But he's a great prospect as well. So that's a very telling matchup. But all these people, I'd love to see them in the UFC where I'm going to actually watch their fights because it's tough in the other organizations.
UFC puts out so much content. It's kind of hard to like keep up with other fights and have a life. So I agree. So hopefully, and hey, monopoly or not, it is where the best fighters in the world predominantly fight. So
right.
I'm for it. Thank you for tuning in to our 2025 prediction show. We hope everybody here has a good new year. Thank you.
If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor store.